I, Thara is here to speak about Gregor Johann Mendel, a monk who was messing around with pea plants. He was a biologist, meteorologist, mathematician who was born on 20 July 1822 in Heisendorf, Austria. He is also known as the father of modern genetics. The pea plant experiment conducted between 1856 and 1863 established many rules of heredity, now referred to as the laws of Mendelian inheritance. His experiment led to the foundation of modern genetics and leading to the study of heredity. He died on 6 January 1884. He was the middle child of the family and his family were peasants. He worked with the family when he was young, which likely fostered a love for nature, the outdoor and plants. He graduated with honors in 1814 when he was 18 years old. At 18, Mendel faced the understandable dilemma figuring out what he wanted to do with his life. So he decided to continue studies and enroll at the Institute of Philosophy at Olmütz. One of his college professors, Frederick Franz, recommended Mendel to the Augustinian monks. The monastery was a cultural center and was complete with massive library and places for scientific experiments, and also the members of the monastery were composers, philosophers and natural scientists. So the monastery was pretty good fit for Mendel. At 1843, at the age of 21, he joined the Augustinian monastery. While there, his roles included priest, botanist, abbot, chaplain, and eventually a teacher. It turns out that he was really good at teaching, so he went for a higher teaching certificate the next year. Despite his best efforts, Mendel failed the exam. But one of the abbots saw his potential in him and decided to ship him off to study at the University of Vienna. From 1851 to 1853, he studied maths, chemistry, and plant physiology. At the age of 31, he returned back to the monastery and he was put in charge of the gardens, which have been dedicated to agricultural experiments. He was still interested in getting his teaching certificate but failed the exam in 1856. Around 1854, Mendel began to research the transmission of hereditary traits in plants hybrid. He was interested about how the traits were inherited. From 1856 to 1863, he crossed tens of thousands of pea plants with different physical characteristics to track the traits throughout several generations. By crossing plants with combinations of these traits, he noticed several mathematical patterns in the offspring. After analyzing the result, he reached the most important conclusions: the law of dominance, the law of segregation, and the law of independent assortment. He also proposed that the hereditary followed basic statistical laws. He concluded that these traits were inherited independently on one another and was pretty pumped out his findings, and he presented them at the meetings in 1865. He published his findings the next year, reporting that some factors were providing visible traits in a way that was predictable. But the scientists misunderstood his findings and didn't recognize the significance at that time, as Mendel couldn't provide any physical proof for the existence of that factors. But Mendel didn't give up. He spent his later years too busy to focus and continue his experimental work. Mendel died in 1884 at the age of 61. But was this the end of Mendel and his experiments? True, the ideas were largely unknown. When he died, they were discovered some 15 years later by three scientists and came to the conclusions as Mendel. Thus, the age of genetics was born. Mendel's work still serves as a foundation for genetics research in the 21st century. His research is fundamental in understanding the field of genetics. Thus, he is considered as the father of modern genetics. Thank you.